prospecting can feel in some ways daunting for people, meaning we know we have to do it, it's not the most fun thing for us to do, but let's make it fun. Let's make it a game. Let's have fun with it. Let's laugh at ourselves. We have to do these things because there's so much prospecting we need to do on an ongoing regular basis. And if you do that and you have fun with it, it doesn't seem like, oh my gosh, I've got to prospect again today. It can be, oh my gosh, I get the opportunity to prospect today, and also see how I can have fun with it, how I actually can talk to people, how I can find individual or see from my experience and soon to be more experienced for newer people. By seeing certain things, I know that I can help that organization. And in the end, that's what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing. And of course, ultimately to make more money, have a certain quality of life, and in the process, as we mentioned, just to really find a connection between our clients' needs and what we have to offer. And not everybody is our client. I know that everybody needs what we have to offer, but not everybody is our client. So we want to find the people that we can truly feel like they value what we offer, they want to work with us, and it can be a really true win-win situation. It shouldn't be a win situation just for the client and not for you. It shouldn't be a win just for you and not for the client. It truly should be a win-win on both sides. All right, there are two different types of salespeople I see. One I call a cowboy and one I call a librarian. You've got, we'll start with librarians. You got the librarian salespeople who want to almost over-research today. Maybe it didn't happen before. It does happen now. They want to research, but then they spend so much time researching, or they try to do it in between each call they're making, which is not a good best practice. You need to make sure that as a salesperson yourself or anyone who reports to you, low payoff activity, high payoff activity. So earlier in the day, later in the day, when they're planning on making calls or you're planning on making calls in a block of time, make sure you're planning appropriately. The night before, make sure you do your reference USA list. Make sure you narrow it down. Make sure you look on LinkedIn or whatever you want to do. Have it prepared and ready to go, and have it be quick and to the point so that you're not spending so much time doing tons of research, and you're definitely not doing it in between calls during a call block time. The other flip side is the cowboy or cowgirl. I'm not trying to discriminate. But those are people who say, I'm not going to do any research. I'm just going to shoot from the hip. It's the way I've always done it. It's the way I'm going to do it. That's how it goes. Be careful because it has shifted. Let me be another person to tell you that, because I'm sure I'm not the first. It has shifted. People's expectations are different, and they expect you to have some research. So what does that look like? How can we have that high impact with good time management? Here's some information that we found here at MWI when we did some research and found this through a company called Foresight. This year, 2014, we found that they recommend you do something called a 3x3 card. And I've been using this in the last, I would say, maybe only 6 months. And it's really taking off for our clients where they're like, oh, this is a good answer for us so that we can use our time wisely and still earn the right. So a 3x3 card means 3 things in 3 minutes. Can you find 3 things in 3 minutes, whether it's a Google search we talked about, Reference USA, LinkedIn, but find 3 things in 3 minutes. Some kind of online content about your prospect, previous employers, competitors your prospect is currently using, any of these areas. And if you look on the right, you'll notice that through some research they've done, they have found that sales reps who access and use 3x3 research, the conversion rate for them for the initial prospect to an appointment increases by 16.7%. So you have almost close to a 17% bump up in reaching that person and setting an appointment, and ultimately setting that appointment. The next one we talk about is proper alignment. So having your key priorities of your clients, understanding how to adapt to those and reach them in that way. So there's three main categories that you have listed in your book that you can fill in the specifics on. Your book will include goals or challenges, strategic initiatives, and trigger events. You can fill in what this means so that you will remember later on when you revisit this information. So make sure you're filling it in. Don't be lazy. All right, the first one, goals or challenges, it's understanding the specifics regarding that business's direction and their issues they're facing with. So understanding a little bit about that and talking with them about it will intrigue interest. The next is strategic initiatives, what the company is doing to ensure they reach their objectives. So if you come across some of those things that they're doing, what are they trying to do to reach it, how you can help with that process. The next is trigger events. I mentioned this earlier when we talked about government regulations or compliances. That is considered an external trigger event. Something that happens, whether it's a regulation or compliance that directly impacts the company to meet certain regulations. Also, an external one would include like gas prices. If gas prices go up, which they've done in the past few years and kind of gone up and down, when they go up, most companies have to do some form of transport. And when they do some form of transport or even using messenger services or what have you, those costs go up. They'll look for other areas in their business to lower expenses to accommodate that change. And we are in the business of helping people do that. Yay! So that would be an example. The other thing on an internal side is an internal trigger can be if they have someone moves or change titles or positions. That can have movement. That can open up opportunities that I'll go over a little bit more in depth on the next slide. It could mean that internally, perhaps they're not on target. An internal change for them could be their financial numbers are off. If they're a publicly held company, that's public information. If they're private, it's not. But you can kind of go through these scenarios and say, has anything changed in their environment? Another thing internally is if you look on their website for press releases, they may show something of a new announcement that they're growing, expanding, building a new building, taking on some kind of specific initiative, and that could go into your trigger event area as well. Now, if we take a look at what does a trigger event mean internally when there's a management change, and how does that give you additional opportunity? Now, this is not in your binder again. This is the newest, latest, and greatest, so feel free to write these things down. I'll explain them so you have time to write, and you have plenty of wide open space. But this allows you to also be engaged. So one thing we're finding, we came across this information from Shift Selling by Craig Elias. And what they have found, and we have validated here, is that when management changes, they are 10 times more likely to change vendors. So think about this. We're looking for trigger events, changes and timing of changes. These are the two things I want to really bring to you in a very significant way. When management changes, they are 10 times more likely to change vendors. Oh, but we have to make sure we have the right timing, frequency of touches. Next thing is 80% of new management will spend money in the first 90 days. What do you think that is? Well, they're trying to prove a point, right? They're going to show they're going to make change in that organization. They have to make their place at that place. 80%. So think about that. If you have a proper frequency and persistency in prospecting, and you have a good system and a rotation, and your timing is aligned right, that when they're wanting to spend money and make a change in the first 90 days of that shift, and you're there, you will most likely seeing that you've already pre-qualified that they're an ideal client, you will most likely get that business. Because it's about timing and need, timing and triggers, shifts. Now, they also did a study. So they did what they wanted to kind of play with this and see, well, how often is this happening? Out of 100 contacts that they selected, there were six different triggers and shifts in 30 days. Okay, you want to talk about our balanced pipeline. You want to talk about making sure that you have so many minnow deals, so many planting of seeds of big deals, and assessments going on of some solution. Hello, we're looking for this. So out of 100 contacts, there were 6 triggers in 30 days. When they multiply that out, it was 900 changes, which means opportunity to us, 900 opportunities in 1 year. Hello. So you can use LinkedIn to track. So some people say, well, how do we come up with, how do we find these? How do we have the right timing for these triggers? Of course, you can be on LinkedIn and be tracking and following people that you know you want to just follow because they're qualified, like you really want to do business with them. That's one way. Another thing we're going to be sending you today as part of your attachments is Google Alerts instructions. So if you use Google Alerts, awesome. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, you're going to love it because we'll give you step-by-step instructions of how to set up companies that, let's say you've looked up on Reference USA or you've prospected in person, you have a list, you have these companies that you've pre-qualified that they have this many employees, they're in these vertical markets, so on and so on. You have that condensed. You can go into Google Alerts, go into Google, set alerts for every single one of those companies with your email address to receive it, and now you're automating the process for you. Every time Google finds something, that anything, any kind of alert, a press release, something from that company that you want to watch and track, it will send you an email with an alert. Cool. So cool. I'm telling you, when I came across that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so amazing. How come I didn't have this back when I was like selling copiers? And so it's a good place for you guys. It's great. So I encourage you to do that. It can significantly help you if you're looking for the right timing for 900 opportunities a year around that. For every situation, I know is slightly different on your geographical areas, but still, to know that that's possible and that a lot of people just don't know about it, are missing the boat, you are now in the know. You now have a system-targeted approach to have leads coming to you. Now you can start attracting more of your ideal clients. Instead of feeling like you're always pushing, start attracting them this way, right? To you, to me, do it that way.